I'd like to welcome everybody to the Madison County Board of Commissioners meeting. Tonight is the agenda setting work session for July 12th, 2021, 6:02 p.m. We'll start off with the chairman's report. T-Splosh government agreements are coming in from the different cities. We are on schedule to have this on the November 2nd ballot. So far, everybody has complied. There's just a couple of them been slow about returning the signatures, but we're good. Something I wanted to go over that just arose today, and it was dealing with the planning and zoning, permitting department, building inspections, and code enforcement. And myself and Linda, Teresa, David, and Christopher, and Eddie, I'm sorry, no David, was involved in it. So we have a situation down there that the program that they use currently for building inspection, plan and zoning and all that was written sometime in the late 90s by somebody. I spoke to Gary Venable that worked here for years, and he didn't even know about it. So because of the way they wrote the program, we can't make any changes to that program. We can't adjust fines, fees, anything. None of the wording can be touched in-house. So we are locked into over a 22-year-old program. And we've reached out to several companies along with Thomas Smallwood's help. And we have come up with a company called My Government Online. They not only have written the programs, but the programs can be used by basically anybody, especially the consumer or the builder or whoever's requesting a permit can literally do it from their phone. They can request a building permit, fill out all the information. It comes through live. The building inspector can go out to the property live, inspect it, clear that permit, approve it or deny it, and leave comments, and it'll be live for the person that applied for it to know where they're at. Some of the programs we looked at was $45,000, $65,000. This is a monthly fee, and on the high side, I will have, hopefully tomorrow, I'll have a breakdown of it, but it's looking more like $800 a month. They handle all tech support, even for the customer at home. If they have a problem figuring out a permit at home, they can call them directly to walk them through it. This will truly maximize the speed of our office, plus make it a nice convenience for the builders in general to know when Eddie's out, when he's coming, the calendar's set. So it's something we're looking at. It's in the very early stages of it. I think this was the second webinar we've watched on it, but we are seriously considering moving this direction because we have serious problems with the one we have.
Does it do rezone applications too?
It does rezone, it does everything.
Yes.
If this program crashes tomorrow, we cannot get it back, our current one. We have nothing to work with other than we'll start using whatever we've got on paper, fill it out, make copies. We have no backup plan for this. It crashed about 8 years ago, according to Gary Venable, and it took 2 weeks to get it back up. And they luckily got it back then. He said, I don't know that I could revive it again even if I was there. So it's just something in the future for us to be looking towards moving to a better online service. It takes every document that we have, they download it in their system. Our ordinances, they download it in their system. Everybody has access to everything we have county-wise. It is stored in an Amazon type cloud base.
In Virginia.
That's correct. And we can access the hard copies of those documents at any point in time. We can make copies of them ourselves, or we can store them and ask for an audit at the end of the year. They create charts. All of it's free. Every bit of it's free other than that one-time fee per month. That shows the building rates versus how many permits issued, why they were issued, anything we want in a chart form, it's done. Several, I want to say, he said over 100-something counties are using it throughout the southeast now. Fulton County's fixing to take it. South Fulton already has it. It's just because of the usability of it and the user friendliness for the people in the public. So just letting you guys know where we're at with that, bringing you up to speed that will be a more ongoing topic. The Moving on, August 2nd is a tentative date that we will be projected moving to the new Board of Elections office. The server is in place, it's online, it's working. There's cameras being installed. I was told today, potentially later this week, we would have the security cameras installed. We want to give a little bit of time to make sure that, you know, all of our water, plumbing, heating and air problems, or any of those issues are addressed and serviced before we let them take occupancy of the building. This has to be done quickly because of the fact she has to have, was it 2 weeks in the paper? She has to run the new address change, so that's why we've set that date for August 2nd. One other thing, well, a couple other things. One is I have the quarterly report from Scott Rice, and so from the month of April till the end of June, for the beginning of April, 4/1 to 6/30, we have had 16,179 people through this building. The month of April was busy, they had 6,600 people through this building. Year to date, in the first 7 months, 31,800 people come through this building. A lot of folks. Court has been, they've had 30 denials totally. They've had 2 removals, 22 meetings, 4 incidents, weapons collected, collected and returned 482, which could be nothing more than a pocket knife. But just saying, collected and returned, every one of them. Just giving you some info as to how security's doing. We spoke in the last meeting about the old Presbyterian church, and we also spoke about the Strickland house up here. And tonight, Mike Stanley's here to give us some description about the buildings and the conditions they're in and potential uses for the building maybe. Mike, would you like to give us some heads up?
I have not been in the building of it yet.
Okay.
I need to be.
What I'd like for Mike to do for us, just give us some ideas of what, some thinking outside of the box ideas of what options might be there for us.
Right,
Other than just
parking,
traditional thinking.
parking at the church is minimal to none, pretty well. Best use of that, I think, in my opinion, would be some sort of in my mind, I would do like a antique furniture business, or not necessarily antiques, but and if I own it, if I rent it, if it were mine, it would be custom furniture built and then stored in the building and use the building as a retail space.
Yeah, you haven't had a chance to look at the Strickland house?
No, sir, I have not been in either building. I don't know what kind of shape either one of them is in. I looked in the windows in the church, looked like some of the ceiling tiles are coming down. Probably would need a new ridge cap on that building. Definitely is gonna have some maintenance done on it. So,
And the kind of work you do, or the kind of, you're thinking on this, from a historic preservation standpoint, when you're looking at buildings like this, we'll just talk about the Presbyterian Church for now.
okay.
Is the historic importance just the exterior of the building? Or is it location, or is it use, or all of the above? Or if you convert it to a different use like what you're talking about, do you lose some of the historic value?
As long as you keep the building intact, and maintain it as it is. You could change the interior, but I wouldn't. I would try to use it as best as possible.
And I forgot to say, it's Mike Stanley's with Novelty Wood Products.
I own a reclaimed lumber business and specialty lumber company, and I'm a construction guy as well. I do roofing. I can maintain the building, it's not a doubt. That's what I do every day.
But the company name is Novelty Wood Products?
Novelty Wood Specialty. My company's right behind where the pig restaurant was in the farmer's market building.
Gotcha.
And I know you probably, without going inside, you could really only see under the lower rafters up under the building, the floor joists. Any kind of dollar idea to renovate, just making it structurally sound to occupy?
Another issue would be egress. There's only one door going in. You'd have to have another door going out for fire egress. So that would actually have to come off the back. I don't, without being able to get in, the door was locked underneath on the crawl space. I couldn't get, I ain't seen anything. I don't even know. But it seems to be, looking at the lines of the building, there's no lean, there's no tilt, there's nothing going on. Structurally, I think there is a roof leak, and it's brought down on one side, some of the ceiling panels in there.
The church, though, and what you said, though, recognizing egress, parking, handicap accessibility, where it's at right now, perhaps the exact location isn't as historically significant as where the Strickland house is at. If it were to be placed in some close proximity to the cemetery, that wouldn't take any value away from the church as being a historical property, would it?
I don't think so, no.
Well, now, Miss Linda Fortson, who is head of the Historic Preservation Group here from Madison County, right?
Right.
Can you give us any insight as to if there was potential historic value? And we know that the Strickland house is maybe on the register, right? Or it may not be.
That I'm not sure of. I'm not sure if either one are. I do know that we have funding, for the church and the courthouse, not the Strickland house. I'm not quite sure the dollar amount. That would be, Dr. John Barton, he's our treasurer. And he's actually on vacation this week, so we need to try to get with you, and he has those dollar amounts. They were gifted to us, by wills, and it can only be used by the stipulation of those wills,
Okay.
so.
You don't have a figure of the dollar
I
amount.
do not, it's been a while since, I've gotten that from, John, so I'm not quite sure.
And what, is it Madison County Historical Society or what?
Mhm.
Okay.
At one time, there was some, most everybody that's Madison County that remembers or recalls Lister Church. At one time, there was some salvaged goods from Lister placed in the church.
The benches are in there.
The benches.
I don't know if there's anything else. I don't know if there's any pulpit furniture.
I don't think so. I think, it's been several years since I've been in the church, but the benches are
There
there.
were some mitered corners from the original structure that wasn't destroyed by fire that had been placed in there at one time just to hold on to those.
Do you have any idea who has a key to it?
We might have one.
Alan, I'm sure.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I can take a look at it later this week then.
Yeah,
And Mike, I can get with you, if you wanna come down and take
Sure.
a look at it. It would be nice to find out if there's an avenue that could put them on the historic registry, to where then you could reach out for grants from the Historical Society, to get them back up in a decent.
Maybe see what the wheels, what does the wheel say as well, Ms. Linda, about usage?
and that I don't know. I've not read them. I think Dr. John actually has that information.
Okay.
Because that was done prior to me getting involved with them. So I'm not quite sure.
And one other thing while we're on this topic of history and preservation, Linda, Ms. Fortune went and picked up the cornerstone, was it 1890?
1897,
1897?
still in my car.
Oh,
Because
really?
I can't get anybody to get it out.
Lift it out.
A gentleman from from Oglethorpe County's great-great-great-grandfather was a sheriff of Madison County, and he had the cornerstone and told me about it in an ACCG meeting. And he said, I got something in my garage,
The cornerstone of what?
the jail that used to be sitting in City Hall parking lot. It was a two-story jail.
It was where the big parking lot is. That was, the jail prior to the old jail next to the city hall. It was a big two-story brick building, that sat up there, and this was the cornerstone. And it's in mint condition, and I was really honored that he gave it to us. So we're hoping one day we'll have some kind of museum, because we do have several really good things to go in there, and this will be a good addition to it.
Trying to remember the gentleman's last name,
Ronnie Boggs.
Boggs.
Well, does the Historical Society have a, when I think historic preservation in the county, the three obvious ones was Presbyterian Church, Strickland House, and the courthouse. So does the Historical Society have a vision for?
To be honest, the
Direction.
Historical Society is a handful of elderly people. I'm probably,
Historical people?
historical people, that's a good way to put
Older
it.
than Denny?
And I am right there with them. I am,
Went to graduate high school with Denny.
yeah, Dr. John's probably the youngest one, Dr. John Barton, he's probably the youngest one that we have, yeah.
Why couldn't you use one of those buildings as the museum?
That would be great.
That would be a good idea for the Presbyterian Church, because it's
Without a
big.
doubt.
Have the suggestion of this, that, or the Strickland House as a sort of county welcome center, county museum.
Yeah, that would be, both of those places have a lot of history, because the Strickland House was the first courthouse we ever had. And it was used for quite a while until, a small wooden structure was built up here in town. And then they built another courthouse where the old courthouse is. And then they tore that courthouse down to build that courthouse.
All right, well, I'll see if Alan has some keys, and we'll take a look at that, but that would be a good idea.
Yeah, and the Strickland House too.
If Alan doesn't have a key, Al Stone may have a key.
Okay. All right, well, thank you. Thank you, Mike, for your time.
Sure.
And I'll get with you as soon as we get a key, and we'll go over and take a look. And Zach will probably wanna be there, see something like that. Mhm.
Thanks, Mike.
All right.
There's a couple zoning amendments that's gonna be coming before us, and these are, some of you may have received those in email, or all of you may. And if there's any questions about those, please contact me or Miss Linda, to go over them in detail, but, one is a A1 conditional use poultry house, I know there's a A2 conditional use, an A3, a deleted ADU, variance, and removal of caretaker, RV tents and campers, and lot size on subdivision. These will all be coming before you, but look out for those emails if you haven't already got them. All right.
So,
Okay. Hearing and actions on zoning matters. Mr. Houston? No, not tonight?
Not tonight. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. First rezone request is Bannister Sexton. He's requesting to rezone 1.36 acres of his 20.68 acres property from A2 to RR to combine with his adjoining property where he lives. Property is located at 152 Wesley Chapel Road, on map 23, parcel 1048 in District 2. The vote of the Planning and Zoning Commission was a vote of 7-0 to recommend approval of this rezone request.
7-0. All right. Any questions regarding Mr. Sexton's request for rezone? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve or deny Mr. Sexton's rezone. Dan?
Did we do a public hearing?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Anybody here that, well, he's, I forgot to tell y'all, he's not here. He had knee surgery and he had an accident. He's not able to come tonight, but if anybody else is here to speak in favor of or in opposition of, please step forward. Hearing none. Mr. Adams,
I'll make a motion to approve it. Second.
have a motion by Mr. Adams, second by Mr. Chandler.
discussion.
Discussion?
The combination of that, it'll just yield about a 3 acre.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
okay.
We'll start off with you, since they started the motion.
Yes.
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 All right. I hope Mr. Bannister feels better, please. So I'm thinking about it. Next, Mr. Houston.
Manuel Robledo is requesting to rezone his 12.43 acre property from A1 to RR to subdivide into 4 parcels. Property is located at the corner of Sanford Road and Helicon Springs Road, on map 18, parcel 73 in District 1. The vote of the Planning and Zoning Commission was a vote of 7-0 to recommend approval of this rezone request with the conditions that it be a minimum of 2,000 square feet, it be new construction, and it be sold and not used as rental property.
All right. Manuel,
Yes, sir.
would you like to speak in favor of it? Tell us what you're gonna do with it?
Well, he basically said it was split in four pieces, about equally sized lots. And new construction, either new mobile home or a new construction. I was trying to get in touch with the water department to see if there was a water close by. If there's not, there will be wells to provide water for those lots.
All right, thank you. Anybody here else in favor of it? Anybody here in opposition of it?
Open for us to discuss.
After we have a motion. I'll ask for a motion to approve or deny Mr. Manuel's rezone request.
I got asked a question, planning and zoning, before we go that far. What was y'all's discussion about, did it enter into your discussion, all the A1 properties, particularly some pretty large ones that are right there? How did that weigh into your decision?
Well, it was never brought up, never talked about.
Well, go ahead, yes, sir.
I have had probably 20 or 25 phone calls related to this particular rezoning request. And it dealt with, and I was of the understanding that the 2,000 square foot, that it would be new stick-built homes. You know, conventional construction. Is that what y'all heard?
That was the motion,
That was
in the
the
motion.
But you just said mobile homes.
Yes, either, mobile homes.
I would,
Well, it can't be either. He's made the motion, or he said they made a motion based off of stick built. So something went wrong maybe in y'all's meeting or changed now. I don't know which.
The Planning and Zoning Board, they put conditions, and that's what they are recommending
Okay,
to the board, but
Gotcha.
he is asking for either one.
gotcha. Now we know how to vote.
the other concern that has been expressed to me, and here again, I travel that road literally every day, is the egress. Are all the drives gonna come onto the Sanford Road? Would that be in your intent, or?
One, 3 will be to Sanford Road and 1 to Helicon Springs.
So you would build a road then to go from Sanford to Helicon Springs, and the homes access that and then turn on to the?
The lots to Sanford Road will be directly to Sanford Road, and the last one will be to Helicon Springs.
So, do y'all have a site plan?
We have a plan.
Yeah,
Now let me,
He took the plat and the site plan is actually drawn on the plat
Okay,
to approximately how it would be subdivided.
all right, no problem. So I would say, within the
Y'all,
motion,
do y'all have that, you have that from?
Have-
you have the plat with the drives.
No, it doesn't have the drives on it, it's just
the lots.
basically the lots.
May I see it? Pelican Springs is the side road. This one belongs to Jones, this belongs to Jones, this is the Beverage. This was just sold, and this is part of that, that's everything around it. So everything
So he's just, are you talking about accessing this one somewhere?
And the pad that's part of there is on this lot down here. This is where it curves out, this is where it lines up. And these two will be affected by that, and this one by the Thank you.
Sure. During the planning and zoning meeting, we put the condition on there for the minimum of 2,000 square feet. The reason for that was to prevent mobile homes, because, you know, I haven't been mobile home shopping in many years, but, person made the motion, felt that, you know, you can't get a mobile home more than 2,000 square feet.
oh, no, you get a much bigger.
Like I said, haven't been shopping in mobile homes lately. But that was the reason and discussion behind it, 2,000 square feet now.
Yeah, I would probably discard that comment and stay with the stick-built condition for legal.
Yeah, and actually, well, just a technicality, but if you make that a condition of an approval, then the way you want to phrase that is no manufactured housing, because under law, you can have either site-built or modular. Modular is not subject to that. You have to allow modular with site-built, but you can say no manufactured housing.
Okay.
I would make a motion based on the comments that I've heard from people, and, you know, of course, we hear the comments and then they'll show up for the hearings, but still we represent those folks. I would make a motion that this zoning request be denied. It's not contingent with the other properties.
Get on the floor, I will second that motion.
Now discussion.
Discussion. I don't like, and I was hoping we never would get to the point where I thought we had to disagree with planning and zoning, and I do apologize. That surrounded by A1, all that A1 bothers me. That's, in this circumstance, again, the presentation we were given was a little bit different, just the package was different. But, the road issue is an issue for me, some, but it's surrounded by the A1. I like that. And when I look at it, I do, back on the other side of it, some of those R3s, that's a whole different issue. You get a little further down the corner, there's some more of that. That's just, that part of that concerns me.
In regards to that, too, Ms. Fortson, and I read your email today concerning the challenge that you are preparing to undertake in the county, trying to sort out much of this that's taking place today. And just in looking at the plat of the area where the A1s are located, I can take and count at least 9 properties that aren't indicated on the county map, where they've been broken off, cut out, taken from this, added to that, but here again, I'm just afraid that this is not, the lay of this particular property is not conducive with what surrounds it, is where I'm at with it. And that's sharing the comments of from the people who,
That's the,
at least 3 of our property owners that adjoin or directly across from this piece of property.
when there's a property change, how quick does it get on the maps?
As quick as I can draw it in.
But many times you're not even made, up until now, you haven't, your office has not even been made aware of that on occasion. Is that safe to say? Not all the time, but
Right.
a whole bunch of times, you know.
Dean was telling me, he said this property has a lot of areas, and they're not drawn in for us to know about. So there's been some division in the area right since this, but this is this specific property. And all these that we're talking about, these are the big ones I'm talking about, this big lot.
The others that have been marked off there are really large, when they say lots, they actually came from some source of part of the Green Estate. And they're maintaining these large lots, significant large lots.
Derek?
Well, I guess what I'm, in the conversation I'm hearing, I feel like I've got maybe half the story. If there's some additional data that needs to be gathered, prior to maybe rendering an opinion that may affect this land for 6 months or a year for a denial, 6 months for a denial. And then I truly want to clarify if, the recommendation or the intent that came from the planning for, non-traditional, or not non-traditional, for non-manufactured housing, if that was the stipulation for the rezoning approval, and if the applicant is not willing to accept that, that may render in some of the conversation. So I guess I'm at a little bit of loss of, if I apologize for not being able to pronounce your name, sir. Robledo? Sorry, thank you. Are you in concurrence, or do you disagree with the condition that the planning department laid out as it was told tonight, that it be at 2,000 square foot non-manufactured housing is prohibited? If I said that correct. I'm just trying to get an understanding to make sure you understand what has been.
Yes, but I believe there are pre-manufactured mobile homes that are 2,000 square feet and over.
All right, let me ask you a different question. If we said no mobile homes, would that change your mind about having it
Yes.
rezoned? That would?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Now, keep in mind that the board can impose restrictions even if the applicant does not agree.
Well,
Of course, that's something the applicant can appeal to Superior Court as well, so.
Yes, sir.
I lost my train of thought there for a second. Oh, yeah, Mr. Robledo had a representative at our public hearing. He wasn't there to answer any of our questions or anything, and so his representative was presented everything.
Okay,
Gotcha.
yeah, that's right, yeah, that makes sense.
Mhm.
That's why I was questioning, there were two different, okay. That clears it up a lot. Any more discussion?
I know.
We're gonna make, understand, if we give you a denial, you're 6 months before you come back.
Sure. Okay, there's a mobile home on the side of Egress Springs. Within the last mile, there's a mobile home parking, with, I don't know, 20+ mobile homes. This will be a three-plus acre lots with mobile homes, new mobile homes. I just don't agree why not.
Thank you. Three of us here. Denny?
No,
The motion to deny.
the motion to deny,
Yeah.
the motion to deny would be yes.
Correct, yeah, a yes is to deny.
A yes to deny. That's what the
Yes.
motion.
Yes, but my apologies to planning and zoning. Sorry.
Yes.
Motion carries. Rezone is denied, sir.
Mr. Chairman, just wanted a comment to address Commissioner Chandler's statement that he never thought he'd see the day he disagreed with the Planning and Zoning Commission. Every single member of the Planning and Zoning Commission understands that we are a recommending body. And I don't think there's a single person up there, myself, probably more so than the rest of them. My feelings are not gonna be hurt if
Well, I
you guys
appreciate
vote
that.
against us. Not gonna happen.
I appreciate that.
You would like for everything to fit, sometimes it does and sometimes it does not.
We appreciate what y'all do.
Absolutely.
And we appreciate y'all.
And one thing I left off of, I forgot. Goodness, I tell you, I left off something in the chairman's report that dawned on me, and now I forgot it again. So, I guess it's not that
For that, I
important.
believe.
Yeah, it's just not that important, I thought. Huh?
The email I sent you about the rezoning cleanup.
Yes, just, yeah, y'all will receive an email that I forwarded to you gentlemen regarding some cleanup of some various ordinances, which Danny touched on a minute ago, that we would like to initiate. I don't know that that actually has to have a vote, because to begin looking at making cleanup changes, because it still has to come before you all, to look at the changes that need to be made, and then it would also come back to us for approval, so there's your vote. But, so at this point, I don't think anybody's gonna disagree that you found problems and wanna start the process of fixing them. So I would say,
All that requires the advertising process.
Yeah, that's right. Any change to a zoning classification or to the zoning ordinance, to the text, will have to come through this regular process, so, you know, Ms. Forson will just do what she always does, just work those up and get them here.
But I think it would be safe to say though, from recent experience through planning and zoning and through the commission here, that we really have a need for this to take place.
Yes, sir.
You know, and, I mean, I would almost say much of it in identifying these properties that will come in question is an inter-office function that is, I believe Mike summed it up in a meeting last year when he said, you know, I'm not asking y'all to come into the 21st century, but let's get closer to the end of the 20th century. I believe those are his words.
You know, watch what I say around here.
I write down a lot of stuff. But I think it is a task that it's been shown that we really need to apply ourselves to, and we appreciate you undertaking
Thank you.
It came back to me what I was supposed to tell you, and it was in the chairman's report, but Newtown Church Road is completed. I think that's been a long, overdue process. It is now, for a shorter term, it's a super highway of gravel roads. All the easements were acquired, all the property signed off on, and it is at full width and full gravel. And that's the reason I forgot to write it down, because that's what the text message was from Alan, verifying the completion of that project. Now, I'll get back on task. See, one little thing throws me off. There you go. All right, old business. Consider awarding seal bid for county-owned parcel 0010049. This was the property located at Jotumdown that the county has owned for several years. We had two bids come in. And Miss Bruce and Sandra Bennett with a bid of $20,101. The second bid was from Matthew Hall. Bid amount was $5,750.
Can you do that, Matt?
Yeah, I think I,
What a shot. He was like, okay. Everything was done accordingly, advertising and opening. So I would ask for a motion to accept Ms. Bruce and Sandra's high winning bid of $20,101.
would accept that bid.
So,
First by Mr. Chandler, second by Mr. Doster.
Yes.
discussion,
Discussion?
I'm just curious, what will be the conveyance, will it be quick claim deed, warranty deed, it won't be a warranty?
No, it's quick claim deed.
Okay.
We put that in the ad, right?
Yes.
No, I just didn't remember, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sure, yes.
Yes.
Discuss approving to survey the Danielsville Volunteer Fire Department and going out for seal bid. And we can do this in one motion for the Collins Volunteer Fire Department and going out for seal bid.
Well, we're not voting.
That was discussed.
Yes, that's right, just for discussion. I think all the surveys have been took care of.
They've been turned in.
All right. I know what threw me off was Brian's email.
Yeah, and you did have to vote on the one we just voted.
Yeah.
You ready for questions on 4 and 5?
Sure.
On the Deansville one, I guess, first question, I guess, was, why this configuration of the lot, and should we be preserving access easement on the, what I would call the west side property line, and just a little rebuttal about where we take the right of way all the way around the corner. I'm just trying to kind of get my head around why
Right.
these lot lines are being invented, and I understand why they're being invented, but
So the lot lines are corresponding with current lot lines, and you said on the west side, that borders the county's property, which is the old jail, and there's actually a field behind it which the county owns, and directly behind the building is the county-owned maintenance shop. And because there was no discussion on the maintenance shop being deeded over, we just had to draw a line somewhere. Now, down the east side of that building is a current lot line. And across the reason it comes around the curve is because we were just trying to clear up lot lines. We were just adjoining lot lines to keep them having a landlocked parcel left. For instance, if we didn't come around the curve, we would have had a little small section there, would have been not necessarily landlocked, but
So it's driven by existing
it's driven
property
by,
corners. is
exactly.
what you're saying.
The only one that's not driven by that is the back lot line. The 159 feet, that was an embedded line, and actually the line on that, the east side of it would have been a drawn line just because we had to split the property somewhere. Currently, the way that building's constructed, your right-hand line, your east line, is an embankment, and they use that steep embankment as the lot line. They have a flat spot there to pull around the back of the building.
Well, each one of these points is being set, so I don't think I'm seeing the existing property lines that you're talking about. Because if it's an iron pin set, we're creating a corner, and it's not an existing line that we're tying back to, so.
This is, I'll do this.
Mr. Harvin, did you do this?
Did. So Chief Perry is the one that decided where the lot lines were. Based on accessibility features of getting trucks in and out of the property. I believe there's an old road that has not a prescriptive, but it has, I think, a 30-foot right-of-way, right? What's the name of that road there? They're doing a water line down it right now, or just did it.
Government Circle.
Government Circle, parent 40-foot right of way.
Yeah, so when I ended up having to do an 80-year title search on this property to figure out things, because there's a Mr. Booth that owns a 1 acre lot behind there that has always been landlocked. So all the lot lines, like I said, were directed by Chief Perry. I think what y'all got going on with this is just Madison County Board of Commissioners is the one that owns the land. He's trying to get a quit claim deed, I'm assuming. Now the Collins was a lot different because the property lines were already established, so.
Okay.
But look, I got the noodle, I did. All of them come over here, square that off, and then preserve the access drive through there in case we never wanted to get back that way to the maintenance shop property.
Access drive where? Up that the west line.
You talking about back where that Booth property is?
Mm-hmm.
Now, keep in mind that west side right there is a creek. That whole west side right there is a swamp creek. Actually, Mr. Bruce's property is pretty much wetlands.
Yeah, like,
It's
and the embankment on the west side is what Chief Perry wanted to use because of accessibility. Again, he had built an embankment over there to be able to get trucks around and all that stuff, so.
But where you set the east line, where you set the west line up, that's the top of the embankment.
Yes, sir.
So all that land is usable to the interior.
They're driving through it right now.
Yeah.
I guess they've always had it where they've driven through it, yes, sir.
The point being that down the hill is creek, wetland, I
Yes,
get that, and I'm just
yeah.
trying.
That's where the old chicken barbecue thing was. They bulldozed it down and built it up flat.
Gotcha. Yeah,
They
it
moved
seemed
dirt
like
from
it'd
the-
been
they moved
freshly
dirt from the east side
graded
to
in the
the
past
west
few
side.
years, yes, sir. Yeah.
Well, I can understand what Mark wants, but I'm also thinking out loud too. I think we can preserve some rights from the county standpoint, but really shouldn't take anything away from them.
Describe to us again, so we can see over here what you're thinking about doing different.
Yeah, I'm just thinking,
I'll watch.
just where this little,
Right. So make it to that property line.
and then I will probably just square this up.
Talking about coming to this property.
Come to that property line, come straight down, square that up a little bit, and the curve, and then just preserve a right of egress across.
You wanna show us why you, this part?
Yeah,
So
you,
that way, if you want to come out there, you can.
Be easier if you
drive out
see
there,
it.
maybe, so.
So, show it. Go ahead, I'll let him show you,
At the
please.
end of the 20th century, they had overhead projectors.
Yeah.
When I was in elementary school.
Yes, sir. I'm just trying, just this little corner right here, if we square that up,
We can.
and then square that up, all I'm trying to say is, and then back here, have some sort of, 20-foot egress, reserve rights.
Oh, yeah.
That way, that maintenance shop back there, if we wanted to get to it, or if we ever do something else with it, we've got that right to drive out that way.
Yeah, like I said, this line down here was another one that he had given me, that we tried to tie into that 40-foot right of way, but yeah, I could see the need for y'all to reserve some type of, egress to get back there, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, I just think that,
Alright.
makes it a
And
little
then squaring it
clearer.
off's not an issue either.
You can keep that copy if you like.
Makes it,
Oh,
It makes more sense to me.
Cleans it up.
makes more sense to me.
It cleans
If
it up.
y'all semi in agreement with that.
Yep.
I don't need all my friends, I just need one. Tonight.
Tonight?
Well, you're not voting tonight.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, but actually, I always look this up, so when I come here and see this, to remind myself, your charter says you gotta have 3 votes for any action by the board, so.
So I do need 2 friends.
You do need to. All right. I know engineers have a hard time with friends, but.
That's right, we do.
All right, any discussion on the Collins Fire Department?
The only discussion I guess I have on that is going back, the existing gravel drive to the west side between the shed and the Altel easement, should we properly define that as a egress for, it just says gravel drive. I mean, I'm just trying, if we're cleaning up property and deeds and all that, should we?
Yes, that needs to be a reserved easement on the plat in the deed, to the grantor. Yeah, gravel drive doesn't tell us if it's a real easement or not.
I'm just trying to,
So y'all own that property currently that drive is going through?
Exactly, so.
BOC does, but there's no record of easement on it, so we can create an easement now. While we're
Exactly.
taking care of this, okay.
yeah,
Exactly.
Got it.
Good deal.
no, just trying to,
All right,
I don't know why you get the big bucks.
need to hang up my work hat.
Good, thank you.
Engineer, lawyer, and surveyor, all agree.
ready to go.
It's definitely wrong, isn't it?
Under new business, discuss the personal property audit procedures. Mr. Robin Baker.
Okay. Good evening. I think all y'all have a packet that Rhonda passed out to you from Trailer Business Services with a couple recommendations there. And Mike may be able to touch on this a little as to whether we need to send this out to bid for a contract, or would this be an auditing firm that would do personal property? How would we treat that?
Well, we changed that in our purchasing policy. I don't think we require bids for anything under 100,000 now, do we? Wasn't that the change we made?
That is correct.
Okay. So as long as this is under $100,000 for the
This
service.
is not.
Yeah.
So what's the cost for this program?
The total cost is, $382,000. No, I'm sorry, no.
No.
It's $130,000 a year for 3 years.
I got it, there it is, okay.
Probably on that
Yeah.
last page. Yeah.
Yeah, then, I don't remember off the top of my head if there's an exception to that $100,000 limit for anything, but yeah, barring an exception, this one needs to go out to bid then.
Okay, and that's fine. Does it need to go out to bid, or do I just need to get estimates from other auditing firms?
No, it needs to go out to bid.
So I need to get with Kathy?
Yeah, and get with
Okay.
Kathy and put out you can either do it as an invitation for bid or a request for proposal. I would think you wanna do this as an RFP, a request
Okay.
for proposal. Just describe the product you're looking for and then let people bid on the exact components that they provide at what
Sure.
price.
Yeah, sure.
You have to have criteria for that RFP. I guess Kathy knows all this, but,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's the
but-
same process as our LMIG, is it?
Yeah,
RFP.
do we do hard bids or?
We do sealed bids for.
Yeah, they would just do hard bids for LMIG, so, yeah, if you can't find an example of an RFP, one thing you're looking for in there is you gotta specify the criteria you're gonna judge it by and the weight for each of those criteria.
I did the LMIG bid, I did all that on the Georgia procurement website, so I'm very familiar with.
Did it have those criteria
Yes.
and the percentage weights for each
Yeah.
one? Okay, that sounds like an RFP then.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'll get with Kathy on that, and now, if anyone has any questions on anything that Trailer Business Services has presented,
We can discuss the scope of work so they have
Sure.
an understanding of what you're actually doing.
yeah. Well, what we're doing is we're wanting to reach out to an audit firm who actually audits personal property accounts. And Brown Trailer with Trailer Business Services, they handle right now about 73 counties in the state. So if you look at the first page, it tells the account, they've broken it down into account class. And their account class 1 is anything under $50,000 in value. And we have 515 accounts that are under $50,000 in value. So then for class 2, 3, 4, up to 6, it tells how many accounts we have that are at that value range. 50 million and above, we have one, which I'm sure everybody knows is going to be Georgia Renewal Power. But what they have broken it down is to do 223 audits per year for 3 years, which would cover our 660 odd business accounts. So they're saying that for 50 accounts at class 1 that are $50,000 and less in value, their average discovery that's not being returned to the county is $25,000 per account, with an estimated value of $1,250,000, which would be taxable value for those 515 accounts. Then up on the $50 million and above accounts, they're saying that the average on that throughout other counties that they pick up is $2 million that's not being properly returned. And it's no fault of the owner, it's just, it could be anything from they didn't know it was supposed to be returned, or they have some things that may be salvage equipment that they're not returning, that should be returned. It could be any number of things, but this company will do 3 years. They'll look at the current year and the previous 2 years to see what is supposed to be returned and what is not. They go a lot more in depth than the assessors do, because we don't have the expertise to do an audit of a business personal property account. They look at their books, and that was one thing I had for y'all tonight, was what they do look at. And what they do is a complex, on-site, detailed audit of the property owner's books and records combined with a physical inspection of their personal property.
So this is all the properties listed in the county, you're talking about just business properties?
This is all the business personal property accounts. Boats, which we also handle, those aren't so bad to do because we know what a boat is worth. So when somebody turns a boat into us, we know the make, model, and the year of the boat. So we can look those up online. And we can also cost them out. So we know what a boat's worth. But when it comes to a business account like Ingalls, someone on our personal property staff can't actually go to Ingalls and do an inventory of Ingalls. So they may or may not be returning all their inventory. We just have to take them at face value that they are.
Without business licenses for the county's businesses, how do you identify them?
We send out personal property returns. We also ride the county and search for new businesses that are there as of January 1st of each year.
Now, I will, adding to this, like beer and wine, for instance. Leon Farmer, and I'm not picking on Leon, they send you a check based on how much they say that store sold. Where you're actually going to the store to find out what they actually sold. Because the two may conflict. When Danielsville Beer and Wine opened, we knew sales went up, but the money went down. They said, oh, they're not selling that much. But we knew physically, we could see the business, and you could talk to the owner, but the owner's like, man, so your money was way off. So this would catch that because it goes into the owner, not a stated income from the manufacturer. That's how we currently get it.
Yes, that's right. It would ensure that everybody is being, and I'm not saying anybody's being dishonest, but it makes sure that everybody is being honest with their returns going forward.
Rob, this cost is just for the review. Will they come, if the property owner disagrees and appeals it to the Board of Equalization and then to Superior Court?
They handle it all the way through the appeal process.
For this fee, or is there an addition for this fee?
That is, yeah.
Okay.
And on top of that, or in addition to that, they will also work with our personal property appraiser on the small accounts to teach her what she needs to look for on those accounts and how to go out and approach those. They also send out notice to the taxpayer of the time and date of the review, because they call it a review, not necessarily an audit. And so that would be beneficial to personal property, is to learn what they're looking for in those reviews, and what they need.
So when was the last time this was done?
Well, we do them all the time, we just don't go into this depth, and we don't handle, or we can't do the large accounts, because we would be overwhelmed if we went out and went to.
But when was the last time the county undertook this type of exercise?
It hasn't been since I've been here, but I know that Trailer Business Service did do Madison County probably about 15 or 20 years ago. And they did the same thing, because they use Madison as one of their counties that they have served.
Question, how would this affect, like a grading contractor? Let's say he owns a Z9 bulldozer, and the value of that bulldozer, because right now it's stated.
Stated value, right.
How does that?
And I'm not sure that they actually do those type businesses. I know they do the retail businesses, but I haven't talked to Brian about how it would affect the contractors. That's something that I think I've asked.
Obviously, they're doing somebody other than just retail, because the GRP you listed as top.
Well, and that's true, so retail, industrial, stuff like that. I'm not really sure on
Yeah, I'm just
individual
curious.
contractors. And you asked about business license earlier. Business license would be great if there was a way that we had business license in the county, but I know that we don't.
It just seems to me it would greatly simplify the process.
Is an audit like this, is it sort of traditional to do just once in a while, or is this
Well, that's what I was talking with Derek. I was just talking with another county attorney fairly recently. I mean, I think there are some counties who have never done it. I don't, it's very difficult to know what's inside there. I would suggest that, does Jackson County use trailer? I know you're not.
I know Jackson County has used trailer. I don't know if they currently use trailer.
You know, of all our surrounding counties, they're the ones with the most personal property, business personal property. I'd be interested to know how they approach it. I can tell you, 20 years ago, they basically just accepted whatever the business turned in, but they may have changed.
And it actually is a requirement that this is done through the appraiser procedure manual, which is the manual that the Department of Revenue makes a guideline for all tax assessor's offices on each and everything that we have to do in the office. It does say that we have to do audits. We pick an audit criteria with the Board of Assessors each year on which accounts we want to audit for the year. And so we try to stay away from the big audits because we don't know, we can't approach them. So we just do the smaller audits.
So this you're talking about being 100% representation?
That would be it,
This-
yes.
So we're looking to get bids for 100% representation, audit
Yeah.
of everything. So assuming that their information is right, then they're, we expect about a 3-to-1 return, or close to 3-to-1 return. That's only gonna be the first time, because you wouldn't wanna do it too regularly. You'd have your return, your rate of return would go way down after the first year.
Well,
Right.
what they would do is, out of the 669 accounts that we have, they do 223 the first year, and that's the rate of return on that. Then the second year, they would do another 223, be the same rate of return. The third year, they'd do another 223, which would be the same rate of return as what they're estimating. And then after that 3 years, they could go back and start over with the first 223, because, you know,
So it's a 3-year process to get 100% audit.
Right.
It's not 100% every year.
no.
Where do we get this number for average discovery per account?
I'm assuming that they're using the accounts from all the other counties that they work with those values.
And that's what they think they discover, that the in-house staff didn't
Right.
on that range.
And what we do now on our audits is we do, really, it's a desk audit. We'll send out the return to businesses, and then the ones that we want to review or audit, we'll ask them for a detailed listing. We'll ask them for detailed inventory, machinery, equipment, furniture, fixtures, and what group they need to be in. Which is, that is acceptable through the Department of Revenue,
Yeah.
but it's not a complex.
So I understand that 138 as a base is essentially for a 3-year contract then,
138 per year.
per year.
And I think that they have a discount depending on when you pay.
It does have a 2 and a 5% discount.
Well, knowing that we need to do some sort of open process,
RFP.
I think from what I'm hearing, and I don't know if anybody else would, I'd probably love to see the RFP draft, the scope of work, you know, the sightings of the Department of Revenue, you know, the things that, you know, go in and the stipulations that we're gonna hold somebody to, and, maybe some of that criteria, and just, I think that would help me get my head around it a little easier and, you know, ask better questions or
Have a better understanding of what we,
We would
And,
have that to submit for bidding anyway, so make sure that all the bids are gonna be.
Anyone that we did end up contracting with would have to do a disclosure that they could not give any information out to anyone other than the assessor's office.
I guess the Department of Revenue probably could help too with some of the criteria on, or whatever manual that they send out and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Could be part of the RFP process and the statutory language or whatever it needs to be.
And all of it's either in the code section or in the APM.
Is July 26th too soon for you to be able to prepare that?
Yeah,
2 weeks, yeah.
yeah, it's gonna take a little longer than that.
Want
And
to say
there's
that?
not-
Is this, I'm sorry, is this time sensitive? I mean.
There's not a rush, I mean,
No.
Maybe August 30th, that's the next voting meeting.
and I think if we can't get it done by then, I'll come back to you and say, hey, we need to put it off.
that would be fair.
So it looked like Stevens County's used it.
Stevens, Franklin, Elbert, Jackson, Banks, and I have a list of all the counties here. I don't know, do you have it?
So let me just ask the question here, so we don't reinvent the wheel, then you could contact one of your peers, and let's just say Jackson, Stephen, and Elbert County, ask to see a copy of their RFP, request for proposal related to this.
Exactly.
Bring that to us, and then maybe we can get this done in the 30 days
Maybe
or
also
so.
ask, what do you wish you put in the RFPs that you didn't?
Yeah, yes, yeah, you know.
That's right.
And I can reach out to Jackson County first.
Yeah, that
Because,
sounds like makes sense.
Yes.
I'm sure they already have one in place.
They should have. Or what I can do, I guess I can call Brian and ask him who they're currently contracted with, and then contact that county. We'll know they'll have.
Well, I think you wanna talk to some counties that don't use it too.
Yeah, to get the RFP.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was thinking, you know, it sounds like that list of counties is everybody they ever have one for, not just the ones they're currently working for.
That's right.
So,
Because Madison is on that list.
yeah, so
73 out of 159.
be interested to talk to the ones who have used it in the past or using somebody else now.
And it could be that Madison County has an RFP from when they used them last time, maybe.
If it's dated, I think we need to get something
Yeah.
current. I mean, you know, if it was Jackson County, they stumbled over the money they got up there, they don't know what to do with so much.
Exactly. So true.
All right, well, thank you, Rob.
Okay, well, I appreciate it, and I'll get back with y'all.
And-
You need your copy?
The-
You need to.
Our
I'll need it.
August meeting, the voting meeting in August is when we're targeting for you to present us an RFP that we will go out for bid from that point, is that correct?
Or do you want to present it at your work session?
Yeah. That'll be a work
August
session.
2nd?
Yeah, it's a work session.
You wanna present it August
I mean,
second?
if we kick it around and we're in agreement with the language, then, I mean, we don't formally have to vote to send it out, we just gotta vote to accept the bid or the
That's right.
proposal
Yeah.
recommendation.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah,
August
administration can
2nd.
send out the RFP.
August the second, then, Ron?
So that should work, and if something comes up where Kathy or Christina thinks we can't get it out by then, we'll let you know.
Yes.
Just put it off. All right, I appreciate it.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Discuss adopting a broadband ready community ordinance. All right, Christina may have to help me or number one. This is, it's a technicality.
Yeah.
That's really what it is. So our current comp plan don't offer the correct wording that we need in it to become a broadband ready county. So we're having to make an adjustment to our current comp plan, adding the wording that'll make us qualified to become a broadband ready county. So all we're doing, taking the current one, adding some verbiage. We'll end up having to vote to add that verbiage. If so, that'll let us go to the next step of being a broadband ready county.
It's actually two pieces, it's the comp plan and the ordinance.
Yes, both.
Yeah.
And then the resolution.
Yes.
Yeah, and the resolution adopts both of those, I think that's phrased, so.
Yes.
Yeah, and the ordinance just, has some pretty truncated timelines for permitting for anybody that's doing broadband services. Again, I guess to encourage people to come in and do those. That's part of what makes you ready for broadband.
This is,
It was their template.
yeah.
Yeah, this is all coming from regional commission.
We were just trying to figure out how to keep from waiting a year to be on a new comp plan. Can we use what we got? What do we need to change in it to make us usable? And this is what they recommended.
Yeah, so regional commission says this is a quote minor amendment that doesn't have to go through the public hearing process. So they're the ones who enforce that, so if they say it is one, it is one.
So we just basically discussed 7 and 8 all at the same time.
And 9.
And 9, yeah, you see that? All right, discuss the 2021 mill rate. And I've got to talk to Kathy about it. I don't know if y'all's phone's been ringing as much as mine have, but ever since the newspaper ran Kathy's article discussing the taxes, people got that confused because it said, I don't have it in front of me, Zach, you might remember it, maybe, I want to say something like 1.6, incorporated area gonna be an increase and a 3.08 increase in unincorporated area, something to that effect is how it reads. And the public has perceived that as being a mill rate increase, and it was not. It was a revenue increase based off of gross and the excess values.
Yeah, growth
Assessed
is
value.
digest growth.
Yes. So it got fairly convoluted in the wording, but anyway, to discuss the mill rate, I don't know that there's much discussion on this one other than the fact I don't think we're gonna increase it by nothing. I think.
Well, I specifically asked her the other day when she sent the language that, what, the terminology I've always heard, is the rollback, you know.
What is their
What-
legal?
What are
required-
we rolling back to? And again, I'm not a property tax expert, so I don't wanna claim to be, but the rates that she said we were using, if we did a complete rollback because of the differences between incorporated and unincorporated, somewhere to make all that legally work correct, would actually be a $317,000 decrease in revenue. And I thought rolling it back was trying to kind of keep it the same.
Revenue neutral.
Revenue neutral, and she said if we did that, then it would, or if we went with the proposed rates that was told to us, it was only like I'll call it a countywide, it was only like a $30,000 increase.
Correct.
So I need a little help with the lingo, I guess, this year. It just seems to be a little more convoluted than
I don't know.
I think it's the inflation rate that if, that Robin and I talked about this today, that increase due to inflation versus new construction
Yeah,
is 300 and something thousand.
okay, yeah, digest growth has two components, values just going up and new construction. So then, because you always have digest growth, if you keep the mill rate the same, it's gonna generate more revenue. So you have to take that, you have to do the math to figure out what do I have to roll the mill rate back to not generate new revenue from that growth.
And where I say that I didn't feel like we were gonna do anything with the mill rate was a statement coming from because of the growth of the income, gross revenue is gonna increase, but so is cost to the county because we're in that year. This morning was potentially a 30-cent increase in fuel that's gonna hit within the next couple of weeks, according to World News, but, so, I said we would probably not increase the mill rate, but I don't know that we'll roll it back neither, just because we're in uncertain times.
Yeah, the county went through, just historically,
Yeah.
you know, the county went through many years that they went back to the rollback every year, and we got in terrible financial straits because of exactly what the chairman just said. I mean, you're not, if you cut out the inflation in values, then how do you pay for the inflation in costs?
Oh, yeah, I understand that, yeah, I was having a little trouble.
Oh, no, I get it, it was
Understanding what
confusing.
she
I read it
said.
twice, trust me. I was just like you, I promise.
So,
But I don't feel that the county currently is in a financial crisis to need to do an increase, nor do I feel like we're, from the auditor's perspective, in an abundance that they would need to roll back at this time. The auditor will let you know when you're getting close to the rollback number, when your surplus becomes too heavy, and they will then request you do something.
That's right, that's that 15% reserve that we talked about in the past, and it's one of the things the auditor looks at.
Yeah. So, any discussion on that any further?
y'all gonna work on a clarifying statement, maybe?
Huh?
You gonna work on a clarifying statement based on what was,
Well, I don't know, that can we?
That, you mean with the ad? The ads
The ad in the
required by
paper,
law. I mean,
Yeah, it's
we
required by
can't
law.
deviate from that.
it's just how it's interpreted.
I mean, I'm gonna run a story on it, that's, confused people for, in the 23 years I've been here.
Yeah.
People get
That's
confused
what
about
she
that.
said.
Yeah.
All the time.
And rightfully so, one of the meetings that we were in just recently on your tax bill, there's legislators trying to get the very bottom line removed. And I get it, because it confuses everybody, and there's a one line at the bottom of the tax bill, or your assessed value, that says projected. And it scares people to death because they're gonna see an increase on that bottom line, even though that may not come, because you're sending it a year in advance. So it really confuses people, and lawmakers is trying to get that removed from that tax bill.
So, yeah,
I've
so I'll,
always looked at net dollars, I mean, what, you know, just which the revenue generated is basically what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
I know there is statutory language, obviously I have the statute in front of me for the ad. This will be a box ad that we have to put in the paper.
Well, that's,
And this, my guess is that this is the statutorily required language now. If we wanna do some sort of press release, that, you know, explains it in a little better terminology than that, we can certainly do
I
that.
think you got that on recording now, right? When his phone's down, face up, he's got it. Yeah.
He'll explain it to me.
I'll do my best.
I know you will. I read Christina an email, or a text message that came to me the other day. This guy was furious. Like, wait a minute. I think he read it as a 3 mil increase. I'm like, no, there's not.
They called me, I tell the chairman responsible.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, it turns out that, when I called that gentleman to try to clarify that, he was the tax assessor for Hart County. And when he said, yeah, I see y'all are doing 1.9 on, in 3.08 on unincorporated, he said, that's good. He said, because we're at 10 and 12 in Hart County. So you can imagine their bump because of their growth. And it's more high-end homes, obviously, but, today, a house closed in Danielsville today that was bought 9 8 years ago for 129, it sold today for 145,000. I got the phone call on it, doubled. Discuss amending section 6-65 and 6-66 of alcohol beverage ordinance regarding the new and renewal application fee.
This is simply because, fingerprinting is required now, and we did have a $200 application fee for new applicants, but with the GBI fingerprinting, it's a little less than $50 for each, fingerprint. So we're gonna charge $50 for all applicants, new and renewal, and it will not go toward their, license fee in order to cover that expense.
Yeah. All we're doing is covering our expenses. And you'll notice it on your budget, there's a $1,000 increase in one of the departments, and it's strictly for GBI.
I suppose we still haven't heard anything about this new state system that's supposed to be done.
I haven't even wanted to email you about that. We got enough, no, I haven't
Yeah.
heard anything.
No, I saw something from ACCG just within the last month that, you know, somebody asked that on the county attorney listserv, and they said, we'll get something out, there's, you know, so, you know, just to catch y'all up, law went into effect January 1, that local alcohol licensing is supposed to become part of the state process. And the statute, General Assembly directed the State Department of Revenue to develop a system for how this is gonna work. They were supposed to have it in place by January 1. They still don't. We're still hearing nothing.
Were you surprised?
No.
Okay. Just making sure, so now I'm okay with you, because if you was surprised, I was gonna worry about you.
Yeah, you don't have to call 911.
Discuss approving an agreement with Northeast Georgia Regional Commission to develop comprehensive plan. I think we all are invited to a meeting tomorrow at Jackson EMC for a steering committee. This is part of the development of the comp plan. I think we're all fully aware of how this is gonna go. We know the current comp plan was around $4,400, and the new one will be about $7,500. And we're all up to date on what the difference in the two will be. We do have a scope of work, was presented. Derek, I don't know if you saw it, I know you asked for it. I don't know.
Did
Yeah,
I send it out to you?
yeah, I'm sorry, I got it.
These 3 pages?
Yeah, that's it.
Looks like a whole lot of them telling us what we had to provide to me, but
That's actually, I wanted as much information to come from us to them, because they're basically gonna put together our plan as what we request. We will give them the road, they will try to figure out how to connect the dots. But you deal with them a lot, probably already, at Clark County, the comp plans.
Derek, you mentioned in our conversation that there are other options other than contracting with the regional commission. What are those?
I mean, there are firms that'll do this, and it really is a level of, I mean, it's like building a house, just what you want to, how much time you wanna spend at it, and how much effort that you wanna put forth. It can get, I mean, you go from, you know, basic to real high. Now, my concern is, I mean, we've been sitting around and saying that we needed to update the comp plan, you know, a lot of the zoning questions, a lot of the, you know, what's the roadmap for the next 15, 20 years? You know, I guess the question in my mind right now is, are we gonna hang our roadmap on $7,500? It don't seem like an investment, enough of an investment, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I understand what Kyle was saying, like, you know, we want to share with them what we want, but coming out of this is public meetings. Well, you can go, you know, we can open the door and have a public meeting, or we can have two of them, or whatever it says here. But it's the formal and the informal acquisition of that data that you get at these
Right.
meetings. How do you process it? What is it? I mean, I've done $100,000 projects that the first meeting we went to was just ask people, what's your one word response? You process that and you move it down the line, and just, it can be very in-depth and very tedious. But I guess my question is, I mean, looking at this, I just don't, besides them coming to a couple meetings and regurgitating what we've got, I just don't know what.
What you're saying is we're gonna get what we pay for.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I just.
Well, sometimes, and I agree with everything he just said, but Oglethorpe County tried this a couple of years ago and went out to an outside contractor and they done it, and what they thought was a good job still didn't get approved. And they had to go back to the regional commission to have them redo some of it, still had to pay them to get it accepted. But I mean, you would hope that you're paying enough that it's good enough the first time, I mean, you would hope that.
Well, I guess part of my desire for tomorrow was being able to try to further vet what.
That's what I was hoping for too.
So,
Are they gonna bring more to the table this time than they have? That's what we're looking for here.
well,
I think.
and how, not just, you know, I mean, it's easy for somebody to sit there and say, yeah,
Yeah.
we're gonna promise you, you know,
Yeah.
we're gonna deliver more, and you're gonna be happy. Well, I mean, when you try and do the schematics on the plumbing plan,
Yeah.
you wanna see what the nuts and bolts that you gotta price out is.
That's the hope.
And that's exactly what I hope tomorrow's outcome will be when we leave that room. We'll either know, are we going in this direction or are we not going in this direction?
Good.
But until we can all have those different opinions from P and Z, from the BOC, the BOE, the Chamber, the Industrial Authority, without all those people in the same room asking those multiple questions, we won't know that we're gonna get the right answer until we have a meeting. And then if we don't like that meeting, or we don't like the answers, we can always turn to another outside source at the next meeting, have them present.
I think what the chairman described, of having to go back to regional commission, that may just be a cost of doing business to get a third party, because in this scenario, regional commission, sort of like the Andy Griffith show where he, you know, write the ticket and then come back to the courthouse and turn the sign around, justice of the peace. They both sell the service to prepare the plan and then
And
they
approve.
approve the plan.
So that was a question that's coming up in my mind, so if we subscribe to somebody else, are they gonna balk on approval of it? But we have to,
At some point, they can't,
They're the ones
obviously.
that fight us off as
They may
qualified.
exact a little bit of a toll along the way, but, most, if not all, well, at least many, maybe most, maybe all of the counties around us have gone to a unified development code that's tied to the comprehensive plan so that you know what to do with this information. What I have seen RDC do in the past is, they do this, which meets the statutory requirements for having a comprehensive plan. That then becomes one line, one sentence on your rezoning applications. Does this comply with the comprehensive plan? And you get a yes or no. I mean, that's what y'all get now.
Right.
What you get if you have a UDC that's tied to a more full comprehensive plan process is you know how to take that comprehensive plan information and apply it to each rezone that comes before you. For example, when Jackson County went to a UDC many years ago, one of their requirements was, and I assume still is, for every rezone, if the answer is no as to whether it's consistent with the comp plan, then the applicant has to go back and get a comp plan amendment before you can even bring the rezone. That makes sure you keep your zoning or zoning classifications consistent with your comp plan. And that's just one example, but that's the kinds of things that a third-party consultant brings to the table.
What does UDC stand for, Unified?
Unified Development Code. puts all of your, permitting and zoning and subdivision, all of that into one index source. I mean, Derek probably knows more about it than I do, but, I understand it's something that the development community really likes because it's one-stop shopping, they don't get surprises.
Well, an example, if we'd have had that in place, so, Mike, tell me if I'm oversimplifying that, if we had had that in place, like in Mr. Hightower's situation, it never would have been zoned A1, there never would have been a business there, you couldn't have cut it off and it remained A1. I mean, there's a lot of things that would have been, there's checkpoints down through there and milestones that would have picked up some of the.
That's right. One of the things about UDC is one thing it unifies is the timeline.
Yes.
From I have an idea to how I implement it. So all your permits, your zoning, everything is on a chronology so that it works in a logical order.
Does regional commission do this?
Not that I'm aware of.
My concern, again, don't wanna beat them up, but the idea of updating a comprehensive plan is, to me, just for this value, really is almost, we're gonna take the existing plan, we're gonna read it, and we're gonna say, what do you wanna change?
Yep.
And we're gonna go to the next stage, read it.
Yep.
And I'm not trying to put words in their mouth, but that's what I envision. And from what I've heard and what I think our community is asking for is that next step into the 20th, 21st century, and it's gonna take a larger effort. Now, what that level of effort costs exactly, again, will depend on
So,
all the bells and whistles you wanna buy, but
do we wanna look at doing a RFP?
honestly, I think I wanna reserve my right to hear what they say tomorrow.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, I'm talking about after we meet tomorrow, we
And then
potentially do this.
then I envisioned probably, some sort of process like that, yeah.
I mean, that's not a problem.
Gary, have you been involved in one in Jackson County?
Yeah, so Jackson County is, like Mr. Pruitt said, it's back in 2007, 2008 when they did that, the comp plan. A map amendment, you get, most of your trash is kicked out in the map amendment process. It doesn't make it to a rezone process. So your planning commission's gonna hear it for the map amendment. They may or may not approve or deny, it goes to you guys, and then y'all can just say, well, we'll follow their recommendation, however you see it. It can't come back for rezone if it can't be amended, if the map can't be amended, but, I'm ARC, any Northeast Georgia Regional Commission, all of them, you don't want them doing your comp plan. You pay them for $3,000 more than what you paid the first time, from what I understand, and which that's just gonna be a new letterhead. You gotta find a true professional to do this.
I do wanna, second to that, like Mike said, when you use Northeast, the commission, you kinda get stuck, because they'll meet your deadlines, they will get what wording, that sentence that needs to be in there. I spoke to Amy Stone, I believe she's out of Oglethorpe, she is over their economic advisory team council, and I called her specifically because she was one that they hired a third party, and then they went back and hired Northeast, the commission. And that was her thing, was that the third party, that she didn't know if it was too much for that small company to take on, and to all the different people involved versus the school system, the BOC, to get all that together, if it was too much for them, but they didn't meet their deadlines, they didn't get everything in their comp plan, so that was why they had to go to the commission. So if we go third party, we really need to research that company, that the company that whoever we use, especially being third party, their representation, and because report,
Well,
does that make sense?
Yeah, it would be safe to say though, if we want to look in another place, we wanna look towards counties that have accelerated growth patterns rather than counties like Oglethorpe, where growth is maybe a little stagnant.
Right.
I mean, we wanna look at the Jackson County, the Oconee counties, Barrow counties.
Walton County as a UDC.
Yes.
when you, and just my opinion, and the only reason why I'm speaking of this is because I will be the one dealing with whoever we decide, these are the people that I would deal with every day during the week. But when, the amount of people that we have coming tomorrow, the amount of people that are truly interested, and we all really want a good comprehensive plan, we need a firm or agency that can accommodate this many people, that can accommodate this size of meetings and information and changes, and that can actually, you know, you work with and help for us to make decisions on. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
To where if you do a smaller firm and it's one or two people in the office, I do not wanna degrade anybody's business, you know, performance or business, but that could be overwhelming. This size of a county, this many people that's wanting to be involved, that are interested in doing this.
Well, like Denny said, you could reach out to Walton County or whoever, Jackson Bank.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be part of the RFP process if
Yeah.
you do one, you.
And see who they actually
who
use.
who's used to good references.
I mean, I know,
And it's not just, and forgive me, I don't mean to interrupt, but I mean, it's not just physically who can do the work and whatnot, it's also, you know, it's also a firm that either can or partner with, you know, a PR firm. I mean, because the advertisement of it, to get the information you need, to understand public comment.
the understanding of our county's particular needs.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a whole ball of wax.
And at
It's
one
all
time, we
wax.
got a planner, Doug Alper was the planner.
Yeah.
He was.
Yeah, I mean, it's the questions you ask. I mean, not to be sexist, many women know more about cars than I do, but, you know, I could send my wife to buy a car, and the salesman will ask her, what do you want? She'll start talking about the color and that kind of stuff. You know, so, yes, I think regional commission, obviously, they do a 100% job on meeting deadlines, when you hold the hearing, when you run the ad, and that kind of stuff. The questions they ask at those hearings, the way they got, you know, I mean, you know, a good salesman says, well, do you need a lot of torque, a lot of horsepower? Where do you drive? What's your mileage? What kind of reliability are you looking for? You need a consultant. The person who runs those meetings needs to ask those kinds of questions, and I have not seen regional commission ask those questions.
And it's not just ask the question, it's processing the data that comes from that question and then turn around and giving a recommendation.
Yeah.
I mean, we can accept it or not, we're gonna be a voting member to adopt it, I got no problem saying, thanks for the information, but I want green instead of blue, I got no problem with that, but I would like a professional, and I think what I've seen in the past is just,
I think it's a fair statement.
they'll get the information and then say, what do you wanna do with it?
That
And
is a
it's,
fair statement.
Everyone that I've been involved, you just hit on something really critical. Everyone that I've been involved in the past has been designed purely based on opinion. There's been really no factual information put into the design of the plan. We gotta get above that.
Right.
We gotta elevate ourselves up to that level.
we don't wanna pick on Will, but I see him back there still, but, I mean, that type of process is really what I think y'all from the P and Z board would be looking for.
I can't tell you how hungry I am for it. I volunteered for this, and I feel like I'm drinking from a fire hose. You know, I worked hard on what y'all turned down tonight. I went and drove around, looked at the properties, looked at the map. I didn't just show up and, you know, I'm trying to put effort into this. I live here, raised my family here. This means something to me. I've got my first grandkid, so this isn't just about me right now. I'm trying to look ahead, and I want to be a part of the process. So,
Good.
absolutely, yes.
So, tomorrow you go to the meeting, and then there's a possible July 26th agenda item in considering going out to RFP, or,
I think it needs to go to one more work session, because we'll be able to take back from whatever tomorrow's is and then discuss it. Just determine that we need to go out from RFP.
so
You wouldn't want to do it at a meeting, a voting meeting. I would think.
8-2 work session on this topic?
Well, I don't know, you might get enough knowledge to do that. A bit, I would make a
You can
decision.
put comp plan update on the agenda
There you
for
go.
A2, and if that date is, we ain't got nothing yet.
Oh, yeah, I wasn't gonna get particular on
Yeah,
the
but
agenda,
I'm saying, if you
but
want
the
to hold
date,
as a placeholder,
8-2, okay.
yeah.
We discuss then and then make the decision at the voting meeting about whether we're gonna go with the regional commission or go look for an RFP, issue an RFP for some other direction.
Well, whether we have to vote on it or not, again, it's one of those things that, if we decide to go out, we're gonna have to take an action to probably, approve a vendor at any time, sooner or later, or approve a
So we'll
selected
have to
vendor.
advertise for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that can be done.
Or in the environment we're trying to create in this complex.
Now this will go back to what Mike's saying, if it's less than $100,000, we don't have to advertise for it, isn't that cool?
But we would want to.
We probably want to,
A request for proposal, yeah.
yeah.
That way you get more opportunity for people to bid in.
The one complicating factor of this is the desire that we all have to include all the cities in it as well. And obviously, the easy out, the cheap out for them is to stay with RDC. So if this looks, it's obvious to me that we're probably gonna be better off elsewhere. So we're gonna have to be looking at the sales job to everybody that's involved. To me, it's critical to have all parties involved in the direction, it's choosing the direction we're going. So,
Yeah, and just a thought on that, I mean, if part of what you end up hiring somebody to do is not just your comp plan, but also to revise your zoning ordinance and tie the comp plan to it, that would be a component that the cities might not want to participate in, and that's up to them, but.
okay.
We'll say this, one more thing. Talking about putting a UDC in and doing all this different stuff. I don't think your planning department, you start going, you're looking at having to add staff, add personnel. You're going to a legitimate system versus the system that's in place right now is kind of run, like she was talking about earlier with the permits, you're creating a lot more work, a lot more, yeah. So that's one thing to keep in mind there. It's gonna be more of an expense on that end too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that, but, I mean, from what you've seen, obviously you work in some different counties, some that do it, I mean, it seems like it's either A or B, there's not really this gradation, it's either you do it the way it was done 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Or there's this much more professional system. And there's
Well,
really not much
it's
in
way
between.
more progressive, you get into more urban areas, Derek will know with the engineering side, but, their goal is to break those map amendments and figure out a way to convince you guys to get what they want out of it. And you're seeing that in Jackson County and the west side of the county, and, all the other counties have already been lost, so to speak. They have just, their comp plan's ever changing. So Jackson County did try to stick to the comp plan for many, many years, but I think over the past 4 or 5 years, it just busted loose on them, and they have faced lawsuits and litigation and just a lot of different things, so.
They were overwhelmed.
What's that?
By not being prepared, they were overwhelmed.
Correct, you're 100% correct, even on the planning side, and all that stuff, it all kind of went hand in hand, and they did implement the My Government type thing for the permits and stuff like that, and, so they would be good people to talk with, so.
Well, I think that echoes my comment from our last meeting about what's gonna take place on the west side of our county. I mean,
I've seen more articles about that since you mentioned it.
Wow. Good meeting. Thank you, gentlemen. Both of you P and Z members, thank y'all very much. It is a hard job. I've done it for about 4 or 5 years. I can't remember. I did go out just like you, sir, and look at those properties. It's tough. When you do it right, it's tough. I get it.
Oh, it's not, it's tough, no, I ain't roofing for a living, I'm not trying to be a.
No, I don't mean that way. I'm talking about.
I appreciate the opportunity, and I will put as much
To do it
into
right.
it, yes.
Yeah, you don't have, certain people don't have to look at properties to do it right, but I appreciate what you done and how you done it. It's good to take all that into consideration.
And to piggyback on what Will said, I have felt from the very beginning a little orientation into our purpose and what we're there to consider would be helpful. I would like to know what you all feel like is important when we review these applications. For instance, I kind of felt a little goofy here tonight with not having an answer. Did you all consider the zoning of the properties around the one over there? Personally, I did. It didn't come up at the table to be an issue, but I did because I felt like, there's some R1s and some R3s over here, and there's some A1s over here. So I kinda felt like, yeah, it's okay. But, you know, it would just be good to know what you all feel is important and quit chasing rabbits. We put all kinds of stuff on
Sure.
the table, and we get off on some stuff. And it's like, if it's not important, you know, let's don't
Mike,
put
could
it
you,
out.
could you make time to hold a class?
Yes, that's something you and the board have already asked me to do, and Linda and I just haven't scheduled it yet. But we need to do that.
Sometime in August?
Yeah, yeah.
We'll go ahead and give you a month's notice?
Sounds good, we'll get it done, yeah.
We'll
But
try to-
but I would just sort of be doing the basics of zoning law.
So the challenge for y'all now, and it's been this way for years, the current comprehensive plan is so ambiguous that you can take any opinion, you can take any position you want, you can justify it inside the bounds of the comprehensive plan. And so, in my mind, I need a plan that is a plan, that has some lines, that draws some lines in the sand, that this is okay here, and this is not okay here. So a lot of the decisions that come to y'all and then come to us are made by that line that is already drawn. You can ask for an R1 over here if you want to, but the comprehensive plan says you're not gonna get it, so I can tell you up front, you're gonna get denied. That's what I'm looking for in a plan. And the information that y'all have to work with is, you don't have enough of that. There's not enough of that structure there. So every decision that you look at is just, it's one at a time. It's not about how is this part of the plan, it's, does this decision fit this little area that we're talking about? And we get to the next one, does this decision fit in this little area? It has nothing to do with this, where does this decision fit in
It's
the
subjective.
big picture of things, where we're going?
Right.
And that has been absent through this whole process.
It's like that attorney said, it appears that it's
Yeah.
there.
So that was the other thing I was gonna suggest, so that's the kind of insight that you really cannot get from me. So after I've done maybe my little basic talk, you might, I would suggest, I'm just throwing this out, maybe a joint work session of the Board of Commissioners and the Planning and Zoning Commission to talk about these kinds of things.
I'm more hungry for that insight than I am the other stuff. I can
Right.
read, I've read through the book,
Right.
I've learned it as best I can, and I can go back to it if needed. I don't wanna send something to you that hasn't been